Hello, and welcome back to the channel. A sanctuary for those who understand that sometimes the most profound strength is born from the deepest betrayal. If you're here for stories where karma isn't left to chance, but is meticulously engineered, you're in the right place. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell for more. Let's dive in. Maria and Mike's love wasn't a loud, fiery explosion. It was a carefully cultivated garden. For 10 years, they had tended to it through career changes, the loss of parents, the quieting of youthful passion into a deep, resonant companionship. He was a partner at a prestigious architectural firm, a man who built structures of steel and glass, but whose heart, Maria believed, was softest with her. She was a sought-after interior designer, her talent lying in understanding the soul of a space, the psychology of the people within it. Together, they weren't just a couple. They were a small, private universe with its own laws, its own language. Their latest project was the nursery. Maria was 14 weeks pregnant. The secret was still theirs alone, a sweet, shared conspiracy. They'd spent last weekend painting the room a soft, cosmic blue. Mike, ever the architect, had meticulously taped the trim, while Maria, laughing, had speckled his nose with starbursts of paint. They'd made love on a drop cloth, surrounded by the smell of latex and promise. It was perfect. The plan was to tell their families at dinner that weekend. Maria had her prenatal checkup that Thursday afternoon. Everything was, as the doctor said with a smile, textbook. Then, the universe tilted. Her 3 p.m. client, a notoriously indecisive CEO, canceled 30 minutes before the meeting. Maria found herself with a sudden, unexpected gift of time. She decided to go home. She'd pick up ingredients for Mike's favorite saltimbocca, light some candles, and perhaps tell him she'd felt the first butterfly flutter of a kick that morning. She savored the thought all the way home. Pulling into the driveway, she noticed his car was there. He must be working from home, she thought, a smile playing on her lips. Even better. She entered through the garage, into the kitchen, her heels clicking softly on the polished concrete floor. She was about to call out his name when she heard it. A sound that didn't belong. It was a woman's laughter. Not from a television or a speaker. It was real, melodic, and coming from upstairs. And it was followed by Mike's laughter. A richer, freer, more unguarded version of the laugh she knew. The cold tendril of unease was so sudden it felt like a physical cramp. She stood frozen, her hand on the cool marble of the kitchen island. It's a colleague. Her mind rationalized. Frantic. They're reviewing plans. In our bedroom? A quieter, more terrifying voice countered. She moved on instinct, her designer's eye noting the details that were wrong. 2 wine glasses on the counter, one smudged with lipstick, a sleek, black patent leather handbag that wasn't hers slung over a dining chair. And the scent, honeysuckle and vanilla, Sienna's perfume. Sienna, Mike's secretary, his incredibly efficient, impeccably dressed, and undeniably beautiful secretary. The one who laughed at all his jokes a little too readily. The one Maria had always quietly dismissed as a non-threat. Because Mike, her Mike, wasn't that man. Her body moved without her conscious command. She crept up the stairs, each step a silent prayer that she was wrong, that her hormones were making her paranoid. The door to their master bedroom was half open. She didn't push it. She simply looked. And the world she had spent a decade building dissolved into ash. There, in the bed she had chosen, on the linen sheets she had imported from Italy, was her husband, and Sienna. They were entangled, oblivious, lost in a world of their own making. The afternoon sun streamed through the window, illuminating the dust motes dancing around them, casting the scene in a cruel, golden light. Mike murmured something against Sienna's neck, and she laughed again, that same melodic, invasive sound. Maria did not make a sound. She did not gasp. She did not cry. She simply watched. She was a ghost, a curator, observing the total ruin of her most prized exhibition. Her eyes took a photograph her heart would never delete. The way his hand rested on the small of Sienna's back. The familiar mole on his shoulder. The way Sienna's auburn hair fanned out on her pillow. The pain was so immense it was anesthetic. It hollowed her out, leaving behind a cavern of absolute zero. She backed away, silent as a shadow. She didn't run. She walked down the stairs, through the kitchen, and out the front door. She got into her car and drove around the corner. And there, parked under the shade of an old oak tree, she finally broke. The sobs were ripped from a place so deep inside her she didn't know it existed. She cried for the future that had just been annihilated. For the father her child would never know. For the woman she was 10 minutes ago, who believed in the sanctity of her own life. When the storm passed, it left behind a terrifying clarity. The grief was still there, a raw, bleeding wound, but layered over it was something new, something cold and hard and sharp. A plan. Maria drove to a lookout point overlooking the city. She needed to be away from her home, from them. She called her obstetrician's office. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice remarkably steady. "Something urgent has come up. I need to reschedule my next appointment for 2 weeks from now. And please, ensure all communications come only to my personal email from now on. My husband and I share an inbox, and I'm planning a surprise for him. A lie, smooth and effortless." Maria didn't remember driving to her best friend Chloe's apartment. She must have, because she woke up hours later on Chloe's couch, wrapped in a blanket, her face swollen and raw from tears she didn't remember shedding. Chloe was there, her face a mask of fury and heartbreak. She had pieced the story together from Maria's hysterical, fragmented words. "I'm going to kill him," Chloe whispered, her voice trembling with rage. "I'm going to castrate him with a rusty spoon. And her, that little viper." But Maria was done crying even though her head was throbbing and her heart in tatters. The initial tsunami of grief had receded, and in its place was something cold, hard, and terrifyingly calm. She sat up, her hands instinctively cradling her stomach. Her baby. Her baby. Not his. Not theirs. The shock had been replaced by a glacial clarity. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a drunken one-night stand. It was his secretary. In her bed. The level of premeditation, the sheer audacity of it, was breathtaking. This was a betrayal years in the making. How long? The question echoed in the silent, frozen cavern of her heart. She thought of all the times Mike had worked late. "I need my phone," Maria said, her voice a hollow monotone. "Maria, maybe you should rest," Chloe began. "My phone. Now, please." Chloe handed it over. Next, she called her lawyer, a formidable woman named Miss Johnson. "Victoria, it's Maria Vance. I need to see you urgently tomorrow. It pertains to divorce, and I need absolute discretion." She didn't explain over the phone. She didn't need to. The tone of her voice said everything. Then, she's Saturday, and she calculated. Chloe watched, her eyes wide with a mixture of awe and fear. "What are you going to do?" She thought of Sienna, not as a person, but as a variable. Ambitious, materialistic, younger. She wouldn't be satisfied with stolen afternoons. She would be pushing for more, for a future. She thought of Mike, a man on the cusp of his greatest professional achievement. His firm was vying for a monumental city center project. The partnership announcement was in 6 weeks. It was his life's dream. He was proud, image-conscious, and loved the curated perfection of their life. "That's it," she thought, her eyes dry and focused. "That's the foundation of his world. And I am going to demolish it, brick by brick." Maria looked up, and for the first time, a flicker of emotion showed in her eyes. It wasn't sadness. It was the cold, blue flame of calculated revenge. "I'm going to give him everything he wants," she said softly. "And then, I'm going to take it all away." She waited another hour. Then she drove home. When she entered, the house was silent. The wine glasses were washed and put away. Sienna's handbag was gone. The air was sprayed with a neutral linen scent, trying to mask the honeysuckle. Mike was in his study, pretending to work. He looked up as she entered, a practiced, easy smile on his face. "Hey, you. I didn't know you were back. How was your meeting?" The performance was flawless. The betrayal, so profound it was almost impressive. Maria met his gaze. She allowed a faint, tired smile to touch her lips. She channeled all her pain into what he would read as end of first trimester exhaustion. "It was long," she said, her voice soft. "I'm just wiped. I think I'm going to lie down for a bit." She walked over and kissed his cheek. He smelled of soap. He'd showered, to wash her off. He squeezed her hand. "You rest, my love. You're growing our little human. That's hard work." The words, once so cherished, now felt like a violation. She simply nodded and walked away, leaving him in his bubble of arrogant security, completely unaware that the woman who just kissed him had seen his soul and found it rotten. The following weeks were a masterclass in performance art. Maria became the perfect, loving, slightly vulnerable pregnant wife. She leaned into his narrative. She confided her fears to him. "Mike, I've been so anxious. What if becoming parents changes us? What if we grow apart?" She drew him in, making him the hero of her story. He, of course, lavished her with reassurance. "Nothing could ever change what we have, Ella. We're a team. Always." The hypocrisy was breathtaking, but it played right into her hands. Every reassurance, every promise, was another piece of evidence she catalogued in her mind. Meanwhile, with Miss Johnson, she built her case. A PI confirmed the affair, providing dates, times, photos of their lunches, their hotel check-ins. Maria, with her designer's eye for detail, began a journal. She documented his lies, his absences, cross-referencing them with the PI's reports. She used their joint account to pay the PI, marking the expenses as home furnishings and prenatal classes. She learned everything. Sienna was pushing him to leave. The city center project was his excuse. "After the partnership is announced, after we secure this contract, then I'll have the financial security to do it right," he told her. A conversation the PI had captured outside a boutique hotel. Maria knew he had no intention of leaving. He wanted the perfect wife and the exciting mistress. He wanted the respectable home and the illicit thrill. He wanted to have it all. So, Maria decided she would give it to him, and then she would take it all away. The key was the project. It was everything: his reputation, his pride, his future. She began to subtly stoke the pressure. "This project is so important, Mike. It's your legacy. We can't have any distractions. Maybe we should keep the baby news quiet from your work until it's all finalized. I don't want anyone thinking you're not 100% focused." She positioned herself as his devoted partner, protecting his ambitions. He agreed, grateful for her support. He was so blind, so utterly convinced of his own cleverness. The final piece came together at the firm's annual summer gala. It was a black tie event, a celebration before the big project announcement. Maria, now visibly pregnant in a stunning emerald green gown that screamed life and vitality, was the picture of graceful support. She made a point of finding Sienna. The woman was watching her from across the room, with a mixture of envy and resentment. Maria approached her, a gentle smile on her face. "Sienna, you look lovely," she said, her voice warm. She placed a hand on her own belly. "This one is keeping me on my toes. But nights like this are worth it, don't you think? To celebrate everything we've all worked so hard for." She leaned in slightly. as if sharing a confidence. "I'm just so proud of Mike. This project, it means everything to him. To us. Our future." She let the word us hang in the air, watching with satisfaction as the light died in Sienna's eyes. She was reinforcing her place, reminding Sienna she was just a temporary distraction. She was baiting the hook. Later that night, as she knew he would, Mike checked his phone. A text from Sienna, fueled by jealousy and wine, flashed on the screen. "We need to talk. Now. This waiting is killing me." Maria, pretending to be tipsy and amorous, draped herself over him. "No work tonight, my love," she slurred playfully, snatching his phone and placing it out of reach. "Tonight, you're all mine." She giggled. The perfect image of a blissfully ignorant wife. She saw the panic in his eyes. The irritation. The perfect storm was brewing. The day of the project presentation arrived. It was a formal affair before the city council and the press. Mike was the lead presenter. His career sat on a razor's edge. Maria knew Sienna would make her move. The text she'd sent the night before had been a desperate gambit. A woman like Sienna, spurned and impatient, would not let this day pass without a scene. Maria positioned herself in the back of the council chamber, a silent observer. She wore a simple black dress. She looked like a widow. Mike was at the podium, magnificent, articulating his vision. He was minutes from the pinnacle of his life. Then, the doors at the back opened. Sienna walked in. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her expression determined. She started walking down the central aisle towards the podium. Mike saw her. His voice faltered. The confidence drained from his face. Maria chose that moment to stand up. She didn't say a word. She simply walked into the aisle, placing herself directly in Sienna's path. The two women stared at each other, the wife and the mistress in the middle of the most important moment of the man they shared. All eyes were on them. Cameras clicked. Sienna, enraged and humiliated, broke the silence. "Get out of my way, Maria. You don't even know what's going on. You're living in a dream world." Maria didn't raise her voice. She spoke with a quiet, devastating clarity that carried through the stunned room. "I know everything, Sienna. I know about the afternoons in my home, in my bed. I know about the hotel on Fifth Avenue. I know you've been asking him to leave his pregnant wife." Gasps echoed through the chamber. Mike looked like he was having a stroke. Sienna, cornered and exposed, screamed, "He doesn't love you. He's going to leave you. He promised me." Maria turned her gaze from Sienna to Mike, who was gripping the podium, white as a ghost. Her expression was not one of anger, but of profound, devastating sorrow. "Is that true, Mike?" she asked, her voice breaking just enough to be perfect. "Were you really going to leave me? Leave us?" She placed a protective hand on her prominent belly. The visual was catastrophic for him. The powerful, pregnant wife, publicly humiliated. The hysterical mistress. His lies, his carefully constructed double life, were exploding in the most public way imaginable. He couldn't speak. He just stood there, utterly destroyed. Maria didn't wait for an answer. She looked at him one last time, let a single perfect tear trace a path down her cheek, and turned and walked out of the chamber. She left him there in the wreckage. The presentation was in tatters. The news leads were writing themselves. His reputation was ash. The divorce was swift, satisfying, and brutal. Miss Johnson used the public scandal, the evidence of the affair, and Mike's abandonment of his pregnant wife to secure Maria everything. The house, full custody, a colossal settlement that bordered on punitive. Mike was fired, and the project was given to another firm. He became a pariah, a cautionary tale. Sienna, her own reputation ruined, left the city shortly after. A couple of months later, Maria gave birth to a healthy baby girl. She named her Aurora, for the dawn, for a new beginning. She was sitting in the nursery, rocking her daughter, when a letter arrived. It was from Mike, full of apologies, Please. Desperation. He was a broken man. He begged for forgiveness. He begged to see his daughter. Maria read it once. Then she walked to the fireplace, struck a match, and watched his words turn to embers and smoke. She had built a life with him once. A beautiful, intricate structure. He had chosen to set a fire in its basement. She hadn't screamed at the flames. She had simply walked out, let the insurance pay out, and used the rubble to build a new foundation, stronger and entirely her own. She looked down at Aurora's sleeping face, at the perfect, unknowing peace of her. "The world is full of beautiful things, my love," she whispered, "and some of them are true. The silence, the calculation, the absolute control. That's what makes this revenge so chillingly effective." She didn't react. She responded. She used his own ego, his own secrets, as the tools for his dismantling. "Now, it's your turn. I want to know what you think. Was Maria's revenge justified? Or did she take it too far by destroying his career in such a public way? What's the most psychologically damaging part of this kind of betrayal? The affair itself, or the elaborate lying that sustains it? Could you have maintained Maria's level of composure? Or would your emotions have taken over? Let's get a deep discussion going in the comments. Share your thoughts on ultimate betrayals and calculated revenge. If this story hooked you, if you felt that slow burn and that final, satisfying payoff, then do this channel a huge favor. Smash that like button. Share this with someone who appreciates a complex story of karma, and subscribe for more tales where the betrayed become the architects of their own justice. Thanks for watching. Until next time.